This show is brought to you by Databril, the scalable Amazon PPC management for large Amazon sellers and brands. Visit sellersessions.com/agency for more details. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I bring in Manuel Becvar. How you doing?
Very good. How about yourself? Thanks.
Yeah, good. We've been friends for a while now. If I remember rightly, I think we met back in Hong Kong about 2015-16.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And if I remember rightly, I actually, before we knew each other and I was getting underway on Amazon, there was this PDF document that was like my little Bible. Mm-hmm. And it happened to be your one, didn't it? It was the Import Dojo thing. Because I've not really done any courses or anything, but it was one of those, I think it's like 60, 70 pages long. And when I was trying to get my head around shipping and FOB and the infrastructure and logistics and stuff like that, I found it really helpful. And it's quite funny that we bumped into each other and you went, yeah, I know, I wrote that. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, that was my first work actually, called the Import Bible. Published it on importdojo.com. It's 135 pages ebook actually, yeah. That explains the real basics of importing from China. Yeah. Building manufacturing networks, how to negotiate prices, how to check out the logistics parts, and in general, how to verify suppliers and how best to approach suppliers in China and the general direction. So that really was my first work, and that turned out to be quite popular. So I wrote 2 more books on a more professional side. Also released a couple of online courses and been doing Import Dojo, selling on Amazon for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it really all started out, 2015, I think, yeah.
Cool. And today what we're going to talk about is verification of suppliers, which is quite a difficult subject to pin down. I mean, you've been doing this manually for a while. Do you want to give us a rundown of your processes and how you've been helping your clients with that?
Definitely. So one of the main topics that always comes up that I get from clients or students is how to verify suppliers. How do I find out if they're legit, or if they send me certificates? How can I check if they're real? And there are a couple of ways, like background check, that you can do on suppliers to get a good feeling, but you can't really verify it clearly unless you contact the third party who issued the certificates. And even in those cases, it's sometimes just a long process and a very bureaucratic process. I've been in the retail import-export industry for 17 years now, and when I used to work as a buyer for the large buying office in Hong Kong, we had one guy in our quality department. He was doing nothing else than checking certificates all day. So he was on a call with the third parties, and it would take a long time to get it verified and so on. So we wanted to find a way to help consumers or to help buyers, importers, to verify it as simple as possible with just a click of a button. And that's what the new project Libellum is all about. Excuse me. And we've been building a team for the last 6 months. So we have a development team in Serbia and Switzerland. We have a legal team also, and me and my COO, we are basically now working on building the awareness for the platform, as well as partnering with as many third parties, testing laboratories as we can. Because what we're essentially doing is, you get a supplier, you have a supplier, he sends you a certificate, you want to figure out if the certificate is real. So we try to partner with as many third parties as we can and get them to upload all the certificates or audits and test reports they ever issued onto our platform. And our platform is connected with the blockchain. So we're not building a blockchain, and you don't really have to have knowledge of the blockchain. But just as a simple explanation, entries on the blockchain are irreversible, and that's what we want to do. So we want to upload these entries, let's say a certificate, onto the blockchain, and no one can change it. And the only way you can upload a certificate is through the third party. So we won't allow any suppliers or customers to upload those certificates. We only allow the third parties who issued those certificates onto our platform.
So you're centralizing ethics, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever one certificate or an audit or whatever gets uploaded, the system creates a QR barcode, and as well as a number. And the third party can then hand over the barcode to the supplier, for example, who paid for the certification, and he can then send those QR barcodes to customers who ask for these certificates. But he can also post them on trading sites like Alibaba or global sources. And whenever a customer gets to Alibaba, he sees the barcode, he scans it, he gets to our platform, and he can verify with one click, yes, this report has really been issued at some point in time, it's still valid, or it has expired, for example. And that's generally the main idea.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So tell us some horror stories, if you don't mind, which is obviously there's a reason leading to this. There's one, it cuts back on time because what you're trying to do is innovate here, yeah? So you're like a startup and then you want to take on a space and break that space down to make it more economical, more effective and less impregnable. Therefore, you put it on the blockchain. So talk me through some of the things that you've seen happen, like everything from, certification that's been faked, bad, good, indifferent. What have you seen over the years?
So one very good example was, I think back in 2012, when I used to work for the buying office, we had a large order of heaters. No, sorry, it was fans for a big German client we had, and they already started selling those certificates. And those fans, and after a couple of months of sales, we got an email from the quality department that one of the fans burned down and the house with it. And they now have a lawsuit on their back, and they need to check if we did everything right on our side. So we were the buying office, we were responsible for making sure the supplier and the certificate is real. So we then checked the certificate in depth, and we found out that it was actually faked. And it was not spotted by our QA inspector, not sure why. And it turned out that the supplier itself, he was a sub-supplier of the fans, so he was a trading company more or less, and he also didn't check the validity of the certificate. So anyway, we ended up paying a lot of money to the client, and we then put a couple of processes in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But it still takes a lot of time to verify a certificate, and there was not really a way back then to make this as easy as possible.
Yeah, and would you say it's common, like for backhanders and stuff, to take place for getting the right certification? Not that I'm saying you've seen it and by who, but is it commonplace in factories in Asia, like China or in Hong Kong or wherever, that these are faked on a regular basis or they're tweaked in some way?
It happens. It doesn't happen a lot anymore, but it still happens, especially when you work with suppliers who are not on sourcing platforms like Global Sources or Alibaba, because these guys do some background checks. But there's still a lot of suppliers who slip through the net. And I mean, Alibaba or Global Sources, they're a platform. They're not specialists on supplier verification. So it can slip through the net as well. So it's not really their fault. And obviously there's thousands of suppliers who are not on these platforms. For example, suppliers in Yiwu, or when you go to the Canton Fair or to any of the shows. And let's say you're a new Amazon seller and you go to China for the first time. You don't have all this background knowledge on how to verify suppliers. So you get a certificate and you think, oh, it's a CE or a REACH certificate. So it looks legit, it's fine. I trust the supplier. I've never heard of suppliers faking those, so I'm fine, So this happens a lot to inexperienced buyers and smaller buyers, and especially for suppliers who are not on sourcing platforms. And while Alibaba and Global Sources is doing a good job on that, trying to verify and only work with legit suppliers, they don't have all the capacity to handle all of those. So we're trying to close this net and get as many suppliers on our platform as possible.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to people in the manual sense before, because obviously your software is coming soon, but it's not quite ready yet, is it? So in the meantime, for listeners of the show, what would you suggest that they do in terms of making sure they do have the right paperwork in place and asking the right questions? Because I'm sure there are factories out there and in no rush to say, quick, come and have a look at all of our paperwork and our our legislations and everything in place. You got to work for that, haven't you? You know, you got to ask the right questions and you got to repeat yourself and stuff. What kind of processes would you say to be put in place for people looking for the certification?
I think you've said it already. Asking a lot of questions, especially in the beginning. I mean, you don't want to. You start talking to a supplier, and you don't want to overwhelm him with 20 emails and 300 questions. But you can start with, you know, when you want to inquire the product, you need to know first what you personally actually need. For example, if you have a fan or a heater, you probably need a CE certificate, you probably need REACH certificate. So you need to be aware of what kind of certifications you need in the first place before you inquire with the supplier. So figure those out first. Then prepare yourself a set of questions to the supplier. For example, which markets does he work in? For example, does he work with South America, Arabia, or South Africa? It's probably not the supplier for you, because you want someone who has been working with your market, for example, the UK or Germany. Then ask maybe who are his customers. You know, are they, for example, does he have a couple of big retailers in his portfolio? Because these retailers usually have very high standards. So if he could say, yeah, I work with Tesco or Woolworth or whatever, then it's probably a good sign, because he knows regulations. Ask some basic questions like, how long has he been in business? Has he been in business for 2 years or for 25 years? You know, so you need a good mix of things in there. What I also do is I send a vendor profile report to the supplier. This is probably in the second or third email. So again, I don't want to overwhelm him in the beginning. It's a simple Excel file where I ask these set of questions, but he also has to fill in a couple of informations like his business license, his address, how many machines does he have, or metal stamping, plastic injections on, how many engineers, who has biggest customers, what's his turnover per year, and you know, so send over a lot of questions and get a general feeling on who he is. Does he respond well, or does he just respond in fragments? You know, is his communication good? And eventually you can ask for certificates. Now, a supplier usually doesn't send you a full certificate, especially if it has been issued for another customer, which is fine by me. All I really want to know is, can he comply to the regulation? So if he blacks out, for example, a customer name on the certificate, that's totally fine for me. And I just want to know, does he have those certificates or not? And once you have these certificates and all your questions answered, you could then basically go to the third-party testing laboratory who issued the certificate and email them or call them and try to verify if the certificate is real. A lot of let's say local suppliers from the provinces, they don't work with all the big testing companies like TUV or SGS or Intertek. So it's sometimes very hard to verify it because it's a Chinese testing laboratory, and you know, some of them may not speak very good English, or they don't really have a web presence. So that's why we're trying to onboard as many of those province testing laboratories as well, to really eradicate the problem.
Makes sense, totally. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I'm pretty good. I mean, if people want to check out the project,
yeah, I was going to say website addresses, Import Dojo, because obviously you've got the courses, you've got the sourcing. Do you want to give them a rundown of how to reach you?
Definitely. So for general information on importing, exporting, I've got a couple of free ebooks on my site. They can check out www.importdojo.com, where I also blog on a regular basis. So it's a lot of Amazon importing, exporting, manufacturing. And for my new project, people can check out Libellum, libellum.io. We're still in the early stages. We're in the developing stage now. We'll be live in a beta version in February, so people can check it out for free. I've got nothing really to sell. And yeah.
Excellent. And is there a direct email that people can reach you, or a Facebook page?
Yes, we have. So for Import Dojo is mail@importdojo.com, and for Libellum it's info@libellum.io, and people can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit with those handle names. So Import Dojo and Libellum.
Excellent. Guys, thanks for joining us today. Manuel, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Other than that, I'll see you in a few days' time. Take care.